We have some very important topics to cover this evening around your paycheck, home care provider's paycheck in the state of California. So we'll be talking about the 7% cut in overtime pay. With us this evening is our Executive Director, Doug Moore, Legislative Director, Christina Boss Hamilton, and our UDW's attorney, Tony Siegel. We'll be answering questions rather, in this teletown hall. So again, my name is Joanna Hester, and I am the host for this evening's teletown hall. Let's start with the 7% cut, right? This is some great things are happening here. So, Doug, can you give us an update on where 7% cut is?
Sure, Joanna, I can do that. But before I do that, I want to make sure that everyone, I just want to remind everyone that if they have questions, they can ask questions by simply pressing *3, and we will be answering questions throughout this call. Now, on to the 7%. As you all know, we've all experienced severe cuts to this program. And finally, in the governor's budget, the 2015 budget proposal, he's proposing to restore the 7%. But just because he proposes that it be restored does not necessarily mean it's going to actually happen. There are several other hurdles that need to happen that we need to cross before we can actually make it happen. However, we feel confident that everything's moving in the right direction. It's going to have to pass the Assembly and Legislature, and it's going to take 2/3 of a vote in order to make this happen. So we will be keeping you updated on this issue, because we're going to need your help in order to attain a 2/3 vote from the Assembly. So that's where we are on the 7%. This is historic in terms of how far we've come over the past few years to get where we are. And we are on the threshold of getting that 7% restored.
This is good news. I mean, he's proposing this, and so there's a good chance that this might actually go through. And I know that many providers could really get relief from this recovery of our 7%. Christina, can you give us a little bit of the history, how this 7% cut even came about to begin with?
Sure, Johanna. So for those who may not know, this all goes back to 2009 when the recession first began under Governor Schwarzenegger. The legislature passed several very severe cuts to IHSS. And UDW, along with our allies, filed several lawsuits to stop the state from implementing these cuts. And then what resulted ultimately in 2013 was a settlement agreement that encompassed all of the different lawsuits. And per the settlement agreement, all consumers received an 8% cut across the board of their hours, starting in 2013, which was then reduced to 7% in 2014. And will be ongoing with no stop, no end date. And so what the governor is proposing is very important, because it's the first time we're going to see a possibility of having those 7% hours restored.
That's great. And if in fact this does go through, when should providers expect this to get implemented?
So the way that it is right now, in terms of a timeline, the proposal is part of the governor's budget. It has to be debated. It has to be voted on through both houses of the legislature. As Doug mentioned, we do need a 2/3 vote, which is what is going to make this challenging. However, the proposal would be for the hours to be restored as of July 1st of this year. So we're really looking at a fast-tracked process.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, I just want to again remind folks, if you want to view us online, simply go to our website at www.udwa.org, or if you have any questions at all and you're on the phone, simply press *3 to ask that question, and we'll have lots of opportunities to answer your questions. Now, our members received a letter from the state that says they will no longer pay overtime due to a federal court ruling. And our union is strongly opposing this action by the state. and we are fighting to make sure that IHSS providers get the pay that we are promised. So this question now is for Doug. What is holding up overtime pay for IHSS providers in the state of California?
Well, first of all, let me just say it's not just overtime pay. We're talking about travel time and wait time. And for the past 75 years, home care providers have been denied the right to earn overtime until recently when the Department of Labor changed the rule that would allow home care providers to earn overtime. A lawsuit was filed by a private home care company, believe it or not, private home cares, because they pay their people less than minimum wage. Can you believe that? Some people actually earn less than minimum wage, and they did not want to have to pay their employees overtime. So in California, we passed a law, and the governor needs to keep his word. He should not be reneging on this deal because there's nothing in the ruling that prohibits the governor from paying the overtime. There's absolutely nothing there. It's a mean-spirited move on his part, and there's nothing that prohibits him from doing the right thing here. And he needs to keep his promise to home care providers. We worked hard to pass that last year. And for him to break his word or find a little loophole is doing an injustice to home care providers throughout California.
Definitely.
We were prepared. The money's still there. The money is still there to pay the overtime. And the governor needs to do the right thing here and allow our members to earn the overtime.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doug. And actually now, that's the reason why we invited Tony Siegel to join us this evening. Is there anything in that ruling that prohibits the state of California from implementing, like Doug said, this money got placed placed in the budget already. There's already funding for overtime. Is there anything in that ruling that prohibits them from paying overtime?
No, absolutely there isn't. The injunction that was issued is about a federal overtime regulation. The state of California wasn't a party in the lawsuit and isn't subject to that injunction. The state is free to implement, as a matter of state law, the payment of overtime. As Doug's already said, in the legislature last year, there was a bill passed completely laying out how the implementation of overtime for home care workers is going to work, and also appropriating money to do that. We've made those arguments to the governor. We've sent a letter, a very forceful letter, to both the governor and the legislative leaders laying out our arguments. And we're going to keep reminding the governor that he needs to do the right thing, which is to honor the commitment represented in that legislation that was passed to implement overtime for IHSS workers.
So many of our members are asking, if this federal ruling, is it getting appealed, or is this it? Is this the final word on our overtime?
It is not the final word. It is a ruling by a single federal judge at the lowest level federal court in Washington, D.C. The Department of Labor has already filed its appeal, and just a couple of days ago, the Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. Granted an order expediting the appeal, which means it's going to be heard on a really fast track. We may have a decision as early as the summer, which by lawyer standards is very fast. UDW, along with its parent union AFSCME, will be filing a brief in support of the Department of Labor, and we're actually quite optimistic. We think the judge who issued this injunction just got it wrong, and we're quite optimistic that the decision is going to be overturned on appeal. All of that said, I come back to the point I made before and that Doug made. There's nothing preventing the governor from doing it now before there's any ruling on appeal.
Thank you, Tony. And again, want to remind our viewers online and our listeners on the phone that if you have any questions about what's happening and what's going on that affects the lives of home care providers and the clients that they're serving, simply press *3. and we'll take your calls and questions and try to answer them on this tele-town hall call. So the question, I think, leads to, back to our executive director is, what are we doing and what are some of the next steps, our union is taking to fight back? Because this union is all about fighting back. So, let's talk about what the next steps are.
Well, just remind you, we had a deal. We have a deal. Mm-hmm. It passed the legislature. The governor signed it into law. So what we're going to do is continue to put pressure on the governor to live up to the deal, live up to the law that was established and passed in California. So our workers are not babysitters, they're workers. Overtime is about respect. And some of the things that we're doing is right now, currently, we have an online petition going on, and we urge you all to go on our website and look at that petition and sign it, have your friends and family sign it. We're going to be doing media outreach, and we're going to be working with a lot of the organizations that we've worked with over the past to get them to sign on. That's why it's important that we don't insulate ourselves and just think of ourselves. We've always said UDW is a community-minded union. So now it's time to reach out to our partners and have them help us in this endeavor. We'll be scheduling a series of town hall meetings in all of our counties to talk about this area. And we're going to be doing a protest at the state capitol. But the important thing that we need to do is to keep the pressure on the legislature, keep the pressure on the governor to live up to the deal. He's the type that says a deal is a deal. And governor, a deal is a deal.
That's right.
Allow the overtime to be paid.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to be doing.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Doug, for saying that. We're going to move our call and our teletown hall to our question and answer shortly. Should you be interested in participating in any of the actions that we're taking, simply call our 800 number to call our local offices at 1-800-621-5016. Again, that number is 1-800-621-5016. So let's see what kind of questions we're getting online here. Is Deborah Sala? Deborah?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, yes. Good, thank you. I think you kind of answered it. I just was wondering, how is it legal if it was a law passed? How can he just decide he's not going to... you mean we just have to wait until he feels like doing it, I guess? Governor Brown, I mean.
He just basically decided not to pay overtime based on that ruling, right?
What happened was that there was a lawsuit filed about a regulation that the Department of Labor created that was set to go into effect on January 1. They convinced a judge back east to enjoin and issue an order preventing the federal regulation from going into effect. The governor is now saying that, taking the position that the state was only required to implement overtime as long as there was a federal regulation. We believe that misreads the law in California that was passed last year, and more important than that, the commitment that the governor and the legislative leaders made to UDW and the other unions about the implementation of overtime. We don't think that it was dependent upon there being a federal regulation. In effect, there was money that was allocated in the budget to pay for overtime, and we very forcefully said that they should go ahead and implement it, regardless of what happens to the lawsuit.
Thank you, Tony. We have another caller from Riverside County, Evelyn Hodge. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Evelyn. What is your question?
My question in regards to now that they made the ruling for not honoring the overtime as far as the timesheets go, because we took all these classes to learn, how to implement some new overtime pay. Are we still doing that, or are we going back to business as usual prior to, having the overtime?
Christina?
Filling filling out timesheets and whatnot?
So the state is going to use the new timesheets from now on. They're not going to go back to using the old timesheets. What they're going to do is just not pay time and a half for hours worked over a 40. So you will still have to use the new format, and for those members who never got the training, I encourage you to get training on the new format of the timesheet to make sure that they're paid on time, because if they're not submitted properly, then they get there's errors in processing. We are encouraging our members to note on their own records and to record the hours on the timesheet of travel time and hours worked, and keep their own records for medical accompaniment time, because we want to make sure that in the case that the appeals court overrules the judge's ruling and orders retroactive pay, that people get paid going back to January 1st. So to answer your question, it is going to proceed as it was in terms of payment, but they are using the new timesheets. Thank you, Christina.
Let me just emphasize the importance of recording your hours. In the event that legally we do get retroactive payment of overtime back to the beginning of this year, we're going to need accurate records in order to make that claim and make sure that people get what they're entitled to.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Tony. And thank you for that great question. We have another caller from Riverside, where I see Riverside members are very active this evening. Let's call Shawneen Greer. Shawneen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
Here.
Oh, good. Ask your questions, please.
Okay, this is my question. Even for the overtime, I want to give a shout out to Riverside County UDW first.
All right.
Also, I would like to hope that I want a question about, I'm a parent with two protective supervision clients. One is 22 as an adult, and one is a minor. And even though I'm for the overtime, to me, the way the policy was written, for me, it was a bait and switch, because if I sign the document, it'll state that I can only work 66 hours per week. And with two protective supervision clients, I have to choose between my children and possibly have a stranger come into my home to care for one of my children, when we've been doing this for over 15 years.
So
even though I'm for, I guess my question is, where do we fit in? Because it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah.
Right. That's a really important question, and it has come up repeatedly in the last 6 months. So let me start off by saying that our position, UDW's position, ever since this concept of overtime was introduced, has been that there should be no cap on the number of hours that any worker can work. Parent, non-parent, family member, doesn't matter. In the final deal that went through the legislature, the state insisted on this cap of 66 hours. And we responded by saying that we were not going to let the issue go for people such as you who fell into this category of having more than one child on in IHSS. And also the issue for recipients who receive way over the maximum allowed through IHSS through waivers that are available through the state. So simultaneous to the law passing, we have been in conversations with the Department of Social Services and working with other stakeholders in the IHSS community to push the state to create an exemption for people who fall into this category, who really have a unique situation that would have a problem by the law passing. And we worked on this for the last several months, and I want to say that we were actually close to achieving a resolution that would have benefited most of the people that fall into those categories. But right before basically we achieved that resolution was when this ruling came out, and it sort of just has cut the process off. So please know that when we win overtime back, we are committed to our members that are in this category. we want to make sure that nobody is negatively impacted by overtime. So we're doing everything that we can to make that happen within the realm of what's possible.
Thank you, Christina. I think Tony raised an excellent point earlier in terms of overtime and keeping track of it. So the question is, if overtime is granted, will providers get retroactive pay going back to January 1st, 2015? So,
well, our position is that they should get it.
Yeah.
However, it's how the judge rules. Okay, and we don't know how the judge is going to rule, but our position is that they should get retroactive pay going back to January 1st. But again, we don't know how the judge is going to rule on this.
but on that note, people should keep track of it.
Absolutely, and it will be our legal position, and we will do whatever legally we can.
Yeah.
Depending on what the outcome of the legal proceeding is in Washington, we will do whatever we can in California to try to enforce it retroactively to the date when it was supposed to go into effect, which was January 1 of this year.
So for those members out there who, please keep track of your overtime or your hours so that we have records and know what it is that people should get should we win this argument. Great. We have another question from Keith Bartolin. Keith, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Keith. What's your question, sir?
First of all, thank you for the form that you put out there for us to respond to. And I have been reading in the Orange County Register that at the national level, they are thinking about disbanding this whole program. I was hoping somebody might have an answer for that.
That doesn't surprise me, but
I missed one of the words you said. On which level?
national level.
Oh, just no. Well, it's a state program, so I'm not aware that there's anything going on federally or statewide to disband the program.
On a different note, they might be trying to disband other things like our union. All right. Well, thank you for that question, and Christina for clarifying that there's no effort to shut down this program nationally because it's a state program. IHSS is a state program in California. Christine Petraeus from San Luis Obispo, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Christine. How are you?
Hi, and I hope everybody's doing well. Okay, I have a question concerning the timesheets, and of course it was already answered. But my question is are we going to continually have delays on getting paid? Because there's, it took them over a week to pay me for one of my clients, and also, are we going to be receiving our not W-2s, but our pay stubs to verify what dues and federal taxes and all that's been paid out and the hours that we put in? And also, are we going to receive the mileage or the travel time forms to fill out?
So
I have please receive that.
So unfortunately, the payment of travel time is on hold. Along with overtime, and while it's on hold, they're not going to send the travel forms out. So you won't be getting those until this is resolved. In terms of the delayed payment, we've been hearing from lots of people that they haven't yet received their pay, or they're receiving it much later than they normally do. So we had a phone call with the folks up in Chico who are the processing payroll processors, and with the Department of Social Services to understand exactly what's going on. One of the things that we were told is that some providers are not tearing off the timesheet along the perforation. They're submitting the whole form, and that's causing problems with the when it's put into the machinery, when it's processed. We're also told that there was, due to the holiday, an influx of hundreds of thousands of timesheets received on one day. And we're also told it's just part of the hiccups of introducing a new payroll system or payroll process. So what I want to say is, if it's been longer than 10 business days since you submitted your timesheet and you haven't been paid, then please call our 800 number so that we can assist you with reaching out to the county social worker and the payroll processor to find out where your check is.
Thank you, Christina. So let's call on Julie Eccles. Julie, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. My question was on the regarding the 7% that we of our pay that we do not get, or of our hours that we do not get. Now, if this legislation is passed, how and it goes into effect July, will it start from July forward, or will we get retroactive pay for the hours that we've been missing out on?
Unfortunately, it would be July 1st forward. That is the proposal.
All right. Well, that's quick and dirty. So let's get to our next caller. Good. Jonathan Moore, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Jonathan. What is your question, sir?
How are you doing today?
Very good, very good.
Actually, I've got a couple of them. My first one is that I'm the care provider for 2 recipients and therefore fell into the category of 61-hour cap. Was wondering, will that cap increase when the 7% time is returned?
Yes, yes, Jonathan, it will. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Also, I got the letter stating that the current time cards are going to be filled out with the 2014 protocols that are in effect right now, meaning I just claim all the hours that are allocated that I work. If it goes retroactive, would we be eligible to be violated for claiming over the 61 hours?
You can claim, there is no weekly cap on, there's no cap at all on the number of hours you can work while this issue is unresolved. So you can work as many hours as you want, and you should properly record them on your timesheet and be paid for them, but they will not be paid at time and a half. They'll be paid at straight time. So until...
I got that part.
Okay. I'm sorry.
You're talking about it being the possibility of, when this situation is rectified, going back to the overtime being retro to January. What I was wondering was, if I'm claiming 65 hours a week for the next 2 weeks, would the 8 hours over be considered a violation once the retro takes effect?
I think so. What do you think, Tony?
Would it be a violation?
If they're granted.
Well, if we're granted retroactive, if a person worked 100 hours a week, would they pay 40 hours overtime or 60 hours overtime?
Well, I think we'll have to wait and see what comes out of the court process, whether in assessing retroactivity they apply the cap. That may ultimately be something we would have to negotiate with the state, I would think.
I thought his question might be, I thought his question was that if he's authorized 66 hours or 65 hours, then it wouldn't be a violation because he's authorized. Mm-hmm. Is it? Okay. Jonathan, did that answer your question? All right. Sorry, we lost Jonathan. All right. Well, let's get to Helena Sarvek. Sorry, Helena. Hi, Helena.
Hi, this is her husband, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
IHSS.
All right.
Hi there. I take her to work. She's Russian. She's very fluent in it. And she's with a 99-year-old. Today is her 99th birthday. It's Maudie Goss. And Maudie's a 99-pound woman that she needs help not only going to the bathroom, but picking up once in a while when she falls. Mm-hmm. My question is, on HSS, we're talking about all these nullifications by the governor. I know that if we go to our legislature, our assembly people, we're able to at least voice our opinions in these elections and say that the Democrats really aren't helping us, or the present regime isn't helping us. But getting on the question, if you have an employee like a Helena or someone who does physical work and has fallen, has hurt their back, or is stressed out, what happens to workman's comp? What happens to people that need a day off and because of a doctor's report can substantiate by saying, hey, I have a note by a written doctor. I expect to get paid. getting hurt or stressed out or doing something on the job site while we're there.
To answer your question quickly, IHSS workers are covered by workers' comp. And so if your wife or if any provider is injured on the job, they should file a claim and pursue the process as any other worker would. So I'm happy to report that in that respect, our members are covered under the same rules as other workers. The thing with IHSS, because it's such a special situation with the recipient being the employer for certain purposes and the state for other, it's not clear sometimes what we're entitled to and what we're not. So your question is really legitimate, and let me just answer by saying you would file a workers' comp claim.
And on the sick days, last year there was a bill that that gave every worker in California 3 paid sick days. It passed, with the exception of those who are in IHSS. We were excluded from that bill at the last minute. So we are fighting to look at ways to get sick days for IHSS providers this year. But unfortunately, the governor and the author of the bill agreed to exclude IHSS home care providers.
And on that sentiment that you are expressing in terms of like, not receiving any kind of, paid sick leave, time off, and all that. I mean, that's exactly what home care providers are coming together for, to win some of those things for you and for themselves, because it matters. Home care providers matter. Thank you for that question, Mr. Alex. Husband to Miss Helena. Sylvia Torres, can we get you on the call? Are you on?
Yes.
Hi, Sylvia. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm calling from San Diego County. Basically, my question is, what is it as a provider? What else we can do to kind of push the governor to kind of like, if he already said he was going to do it. I mean, like, I already know that we have the petition going on the internet, but what else can we do to kind of just push him to kind of like do whatever he said he was going to do? Because if we don't push him, nothing that we're really talking about is really going to happen,
No, I agree. And some of the things we can do, you can call the office, because we're going to be scheduling town hall meetings. Where do you live at in San Diego?
I think we lost her.
We lost her?
But you can still answer the question.
Town hall meetings. We're going to be doing rallies at the Capitol, but we have to put pressure. You're right. We have to keep the pressure up on the governor and the legislature to make sure that they restore the overtime. That's a deal. That is a deal that he's reneging on. And the only way we're going to get him to do the right thing is with constant pressure.
And for all those members who are listening and watching us online, all home care providers in all of our counties are organizing around this idea that, we must do something. There has to be a public outcry regarding his action and behavior regarding overtime. So if you are interested in joining other home care providers, simply call our 800 number, 1-800-621-5016, and join in. Home care providers are organizing everywhere. Call 1-800-621-5016, and they can tell you exactly what is happening in San Diego, what home care providers are doing in Riverside, in Orange County, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Kern County, Merced, Stanislaus, El Dorado County, and Placer County. So make sure to call. All right. We have Julie Otero on the line. Julie?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Oh, yes, how are you guys? I'm over at Bakersfield. What's up?
What's up?
Bakersfield represent up in here. My union is the best, 39. They're great. Bunch of people. And we are the hardest people working out here every time. We need to push something forward for the UDW. And we should get cut up all the time. I just don't understand. But anyways, my question is, how come not only we have to come
funding, but the HISS office doesn't help with that situation by cutting people's hours without really good explanation. For example, I was cut off 42 hours this year just to put me under the 40 hours every week. My check stubs are 40 for 2 weeks and 39 for the following ending of the month. So I don't go over the 40 hours. So they do that on purpose. So I won't have no claim on any overtime like some other people. So that's the new thing that they're doing down here in order to keep people on taps, so they don't be asking for the overtime. How can we stop this?
It's a great question, and it certainly can feel that way, when hours are being cut. Christina?
Julia, I recommend you call your local office, and it sounds like you're a really active member, so I'm sure you know where they are. You really need to look at the individual circumstances, what the social worker, what correspondence they sent you, what the reason was behind the hours being cut. But our organizers in the field are constantly working to help providers and consumers file claims to get more hours, and they succeed. So don't not do this. Call your local office to get help for your individual circumstance.
And again, that number to call, 1-800-621-5016. That is our toll-free number. You can call statewide, and we can direct you to the right person that can help you in that kind of situation. Sharina Alush. Sharina, are you on? Hi, Sharina.
Hi, how are you guys?
Very good. How about yourself?
Good, thank you. So my question is that with the overtime pay, I wanted to know how would it affect me because I am a parent. So it's a different scenario. I'm the typical worker that I just work from 9 to 5 or, have set hours. I'm here all day, all the time, nights, mornings, and the weekends.
How many hours?
How will it work for me?
How many hours is your child authorized to receive?
I'm getting 260 per month.
Okay, so you actually will benefit once we win this fight. So the limit is 61 hours per week, and once the 7% cut is restored, it actually goes up to 66 hours. So the way that number was come about was by taking the maximum hours, which is 283, and dividing them roughly by 4 to come up with a weekly limit. So you as a parent will get the same benefit as any other worker. The fact that you're a parent is not good, doesn't make a difference. This is applicable for all providers regardless of their status. And so long as you remain within the 66-hour weekly cap, you will get overtime. So you definitely stand to benefit.
Great.
Oh, okay, I see. And I have another question. So, if we are just working, taking care of, I'm working taking care of my son. Am I allowed to work any other job, just like a part-time, or this is all I am supposed to do?
I don't believe there's any restriction on you working whatever job you want. But I'm hesitant to give you a yes or a no. I think you should call your local office and ask to speak with an organizer who can help you. Because I do know that there's some rules relating to parent providers, and I don't want to send you the wrong information. So let me say that you should follow back up with us so we can look at your individual circumstance.
Also, that number, let me just can ask you for clarification. You stated over 61 hours, and if we restore 7%, 66 hours maximum, but over 40 hours is when overtime is going to get clicked in if we win the overtime issue.
Yes.
I just want to clarify that.
Yep.
All right. So in the event that we win overtime, it's after 40 hours a week. And there's a stipulation with the state to have a maximum 61 hours authorized per week, and 66 hours if we restore 7%. All right, very clear, very clear. Can we get George on the line? Mr. George, Jorge.
Yeah.
Hi, Jorge. How are you?
Hello?
Hi. What is your question?
I'm right here just hearing all that nonsense going on, because it's wrong what's going on. They're taking 7% off.
Yeah.
That really hurts. And I started working in 2012, and I take care of my mom, and I work about 24 hours a day, because my mom sleeps at a certain time. She wakes up, she cries. I have to come and change her often because she's getting sores. And like, I feel like that 7%, the governor should just say, you know what, I'm going to do it, and that's about it, because Governor Schwarzenegger stole a lot of money from he was governor, and I think the governor that we have right now will probably do the same thing.
That's right.
Right.
No, we agree, Jorge. So that's why we're fighting to make sure that we're not taking the governor for his word. Although he's the one that put it in his budget, you know, it'd be silly for him to veto something that he approved. But I don't take any chances with this guy. So that's why it's important that we continue to keep pressure on him. We can't just say, we can't assume he's going to do the right thing.
But he needs
We've got to make sure that they all do the right thing.
That's right.
That's why we're in Sacramento. That's why we're going to be going to the local offices where your legislators are. We're going to be doing delegations of workers in Riverside, San Diego, Orange, Kern, all of our UDW counties. We're going to be going local to put pressure on them to make sure that the right thing happens here. And this is not about a Democrat or Republican. We need both Democratic and Republican voters elected to support this.
Thank you, Doug. We have Ellen Duckworth. Can we get Miss Ellen on the line? Ellen?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
What is your question,
How are
ma'am?
you?
Hi, good.
Yes. My question, I'm from Riverside County. So my question is, I have two clients, and it's quite a distance from one client to the other client. And so what I'm asking, when we do start to get our overtime, is that something that you want us to write down and keep to ourselves right now, the overtime that we do, for our clients, and then when this is approved, then we go ahead and write those hours in, and are we going to get paid back from January to whenever it's approved?
So you should note your travel between your two clients.
And wait time.
And if you have wait time during medical appointments for any of the clients. And we will push as much as we can to make sure that you get those hours paid to you.
The key is that you keep records.
So you will be paying the back pay for all the times that I work from January. You'll be paying back all of those times, those hours as well.
We don't know yet. We have no guarantee. It all depends on how the court rules. But in case, we want to be prepared.
Yeah, if you don't keep records, then it's going to be hard to prove. So it's important that you document your travel time, your wait time, and your mileage.
Right.
It's very important that you do that.
Thank you, Doug and Christina, for answering that question. Evelyn Hodge is our next caller. Evelyn?
Hi. Yes, I have a question. I have kind of like a question similar to one of question that you had earlier. I have two children that have max hours for their disability, and I split my hours with my daughter. So essentially, she helps me take care of my sons, and we're both with IHSS. She was asking me to ask you, because she signed up to be a home care provider with other clients outside of my sons, and she was worried that because of the overtime being implemented, will she still be able to take on other clients if the max hours are 61 and she's doing like half of the max hours for my son?
So all workers would be subject to the 61-hour limit. So depending on how many hours she works for you and your son or your child, that's the answer in terms of her having other clients. It depends on what the total hours per week are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my next question is that, for instance, like one of my sons, they get like 239.25 hours. Since the overtime hasn't been implemented, could I work all those hours?
Yes.
Myself?
Yes, you can work as many hours.
If I do work all those hours myself, when the overtime gets implemented, will I be penalized for going over?
No, you won't be. There's no penalty right now there's no limit, so there's no penalty, and there's no retroactive penalty. So you can be comfortable working as many hours as you want right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when the courts do decide to rule in our favor on overtime, how will the overtime pay be applied to this if I decide to work all 239 hours per month?
So that's similar to the question the gentleman asked earlier, and what Tony said was it depends on how the court rules. Will they pay every hour above 40, or will it be subject to the weekly cap? We don't actually know yet. That will remain to be seen.
But what it's important is to keep record and track your hours and travel time and wait time, so that you have proof at the time when the time is appropriate. All right, good questions. Our next caller, Joseph Rice. Are you on? Joseph?
Yes.
Hi, what is your question, sir?
Yes, I was wondering because my mom doesn't get more than $32.48 a month for me to work. And the new timesheet, because all the ones would come back how many hours we have left at the end of the month, and it's not showing up on this one anymore. So does that state that I'm able to work more hours, or is that just there because it's not implemented on the new sheet?
It's just not printed on the timesheets. It doesn't mean that you can't work more hours. It's just a change in how they formatted the timesheets. So you can just reference the notice of action to determine how many more hours you have left.
So pretty much go off of my original sheet stating that she only has 32.48.
Yeah, her hours are the same as they were.
Okay, yeah, that was the one question I had because I'm not part of the overtime like everyone else is, but it was confusing.
Yeah,
whether or not I was able to work more.
Yeah, we've gotten that question from other people. So yeah, it's not a change in the hours. It's just for whatever reason they didn't put the hours on the timesheet.
Thank you, Christina, for that. Our next question, Laura Thompson. Laura, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm good. So the question that I have is, one is how can certain counties be paid higher than other counties? I understand cost of living, but I'm from San Diego County, and our cost of living is very, very high, but we get paid $9 something an hour, but Riverside County gets paid $11 an hour. And then San Bernardino County gets paid, I think, even less than San Diego County. So how is it that these counties, who calculates the hourly wages?
Each county has their own, it's done county by county. Riverside County has a county that's friendly versus San Diego County that has a county board of supervisors that are not so friendly when it comes to this program. In fact, they would like to get rid of it if they could. So it's the elected county board of supervisors who actually determine this. That's why what we're trying to do in 2015 is, instead of negotiating contracts with 10 different counties, move the bargaining to the state level and have one contract for all of IHSS for UDW. So no matter what county you go to, the wage is the wage. There may be some cost of living adjustments in higher counties, like a county, like for instance, San Diego County versus Kern. It may be a little cost of living adjustment because it costs more to live in San Diego County. But we feel the best way to do this is to move the bargaining, where we're bargaining one contract statewide for UDW members for our counties. We are diligently working on doing this. The Board of Supervisors in, I would say 9 out of our 10 counties do not support the program the way Riverside County supports this program. So bargaining has been very, very tough. I believe the last time we went in negotiations in San Diego, it took us 2 years to just get to 25 cents. And it's not because the county is a broke county. San Diego County is one of the richest counties in the United States. It's just they don't have the will to pay a living wage to home care providers.
That's right. That's right.
Best thing to do is elect new county board of supervisors.
That or go statewide.
Or go statewide. Yes.
Exactly, and that's certainly what we're trying to figure out how to do. So with that, again, I want to thank our panelists this evening, Christina Boss, our Legislative Director, our Executive Director, Doug Moore, and Tony Siegel from who is our attorney, for joining us this evening. I encourage you to leave a voicemail after this call if you have questions that you feel didn't get a chance to get asked, or you're still unclear with some of the things that we talked about this evening, or simply call our 800 number to call and directly contact our office. The UDW office is at 1-800-621-5016. And with that, I say good night and have a great day.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.